Today on the Blockchain Report, Bitcoin sitting around 111K, and it might be because Republicans want to turn Trump's crypto 401k order into federal law, meaning your retirement account might soon be able to buy the dip for you. Elon Musk calls Bitcoin energy money, proving once again he's one good tweet away from becoming a full-blown maxi. And Donald Trump is furious at the Time magazine for giving him a halo, which, let's be honest, is the most bullish thing to happen to divine lighting since Satoshi rose from anonymity. All that and more on today's show. Let's go. Good morning, my digital degenerates, freedom financiers, and part-time chart psychologists, and welcome back to another episode of the Blockchain Report. I'm Hank Hudson, streaming to you live from San Francisco, California, and today's lineup is loaded. We're talking governments that are hoarding Bitcoin like it's the Cold War sequel. Elon's back on his energy money kick, and politicians are realizing that orange might be their new favorite color, not for jumpsuits, but for laser eyes. Now, before we dive into the chaos, and I mean full-on economic fan fiction featuring trillion-dollar trade wars, ETF inflows, and billionaires doing PR therapy on X, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you're following RoxomTV and me at Hank at RoxomTV. Because, hey, if your investment strategy still involves Reddit threads and hopium, you might be the exit liquidity we warn people about. So grab your coffee, open your charts, and let's check in on this morning's market rundown and see the numbers. Let's go. All right, so this morning, Bitcoin sitting firmly around that 111K level. As we know, since Friday, it has been quite the roller coaster for Bitcoin. We were around 124, 125 as of late last week. And then we had that flash crash that sent us going all the way back down as low as 102, but now we're firmly in the 111K range. So things are on the upswing, or so it seems. So I want right now to get into some charts so we can actually see what is going on with Bitcoin currently and see how the tea leaves are looking as we move forward into Q4. So let's bring up our charts here, gang. Okay. So what I want to start with here is this is the chart that basically shows us what the short-term holders are doing. So those are the people that have held Bitcoin for less than 155 days. Let's see how they're feeling. So think of this as kind of the emotional traders, day traders in the world of Bitcoin and how they are currently feeling about things. Now, when the price we're seeing here stays above their average buy-in, which is that red line we're seeing, things are looking pretty bullish. It means most of them are in profit and they're feeling a little cocky. Now, when the price drops below that red line like it did on October 14th, well, they tend to panic faster than CNBC after a 2% red candle, right? But right now, Bitcoin retested that short-term holder cost basis and it got rejected, which means that the bulls lost momentum and short-term traders are starting to get a little scared. Now, if Bitcoin can get back above that 113.8K mark and hold it, we're back in business. But if not, you can expect more chop and possibly more pain before the next leg up. So the short and skinny is the bulls had the ball, fumbled it, and they fumbled it at around 114K, and now they're trying to recover before the bears run it back for a touchdown. All right, let's bring up our next chart here. This next chart is our net realized profit loss chart. So this one is kind of like Bitcoin's emotional thermometer. It tells us where people are cashing out in profit, and that's the green, or selling in panic, which is the red. Right now, realized profits have cooled off to levels we've seen near local bottoms in the past. That's a good sign for short-term relief. But here's the catch. True bottoms in this cycle have happened when this metric goes neutral or negative, meaning real panic and capitulation. And we're not quite there yet. So yeah, the worst might be over for now, but there's still room for more emotional meltdown before the next bounce. So everyone stops celebrating, but hey, they're not crying in the bathroom just yet. That's usually the calm before the next big pump. So we're keeping an eye on that. Last but not least, we're bringing up chart number 3. This is our topping cloud price models chart, okay? So this one kind of looks like a weather radar for Bitcoin's price action. Each band that we're seeing here, those colorful clouds, shows where Bitcoin has historically gotten overheated, or basically where things start to look a little too euphoric. Right now, Bitcoin's been rejected multiple times at the MVRV plus 1SD line, around that 135K level you can see there, which is where previous local tops have actually happened. That's our next real resistance zone. So if price can break above that, it opens the door to new all-time highs. But until that happens, we're still consolidating in the don't get cocky yet range. So in other words, the sky is still clear, but thunder is waiting at that 135K level. So what's the overall market take this morning? Well, all signs are pointing to a structurally intact bull market, but nerves are showing among short-term holders. Fear has certainly crept in, realized profits are cooling off, and Bitcoin's testing support lines like a drunk guy texting his ex. Now, the bulls need to reclaim that 114K mark and hold it like their rent depends on it. And if they do, game on. But if they don't, brace for a dip before the next big move up. All right, we're taking a quick break, but when we're back, today's top stories and our bull run here on the Blockchain Report. Stay tuned right after this.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
All right, welcome back. It's time for this morning's Bull Run, where we go over the top stories of the day. Let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about. First up, it looks like Congress has entered its number go up era. Representative Troy Downing of Montana has introduced a bill that would turn President Trump's crypto retirement order into federal law, officially allowing 401k plans to include Bitcoin. The move would give Trump's executive order real legal teeth, making it a permanent feature of the U.S. retirement system rather than a temporary political experiment. Downing called it the Retirement Investment Choice Act, which sounds empowering until you realize it basically says, let Americans buy the dip with their pensions. Supporters say it'll supercharge retirement security by giving savers exposure to high-growth assets. Critics say it'll supercharge heart attacks when grandma opens her Fidelity app and sees Bitcoin is down 12%. Still, the numbers are huge. The U.S. retirement industry manages $25 trillion, and even a small percentage flowing into Bitcoin would be a tsunami of liquidity. So the question isn't whether crypto will enter retirement portfolios, it's whether Americans can handle seeing those portfolios fluctuate faster than Elon's haircut schedule. We'll keep you posted on that one. Next up, the U.S. government apparently decided it too wants to become a Bitcoin whale. Federal prosecutors recently announced the largest crypto seizure in history, 127,000 BTC, after uncovering a Cambodian-based mega scam called the Prince Holding Group. And no, that's not a royal family. It's a human trafficking meets crypto fraud operation run by Chinese businessman Chen Zi, also known as Vincent, who allegedly traded citizenship for shell companies and yachts. The Department of Justice says that Chen's team lured thousands of workers into job offers, locked them in compounds, and forced them to run pig butchering scams where victims are emotionally fattened up before being digitally slaughtered on fake trading sites. Funds were laundered through more than 100 shell companies, spun through exchanges and mining ops, and parked in private wallets now worth over $14 billion. The Treasury Department slapped sanctions on 146 people and entities tied to the Prince Group, froze assets, and basically told Cambodia, you're on crypto timeout now. The U.S. now holds the keys to those seized wallets, meaning the American government could quietly add another $14 billion in Bitcoin to its strategic Bitcoin reserve. That would bring Uncle Sam's total stash to roughly 325,000 BTC. So while most governments are still printing money they don't have, the U.S. might accidentally stack sats by prosecuting criminals. Sounds like a win-win, right? Yeah. And Elon Musk is back on his Bitcoin arc. There he is, the chainsaw. After years of shilling Dogecoin and pretending to care about the environment, the world's richest chaos agent is once again calling Bitcoin energy money, saying it's impossible to fake, unlike fiat. He posted on Twitter, "You can issue fake currency. Every government in history has, but you can't fake energy." Or in other words, he's back in his Bitcoin philosopher phase. I love that phase. Now, Musk's comments come in response to a threat about the AI arms race, where nations are printing trillions to power their shiny new data centers. And if that sounds sustainable, well, it's not. Goldman Sachs says global data center energy demand will surge 165% by 2030. And to keep up, the world would need up to 70 new nuclear reactors by 2028, which is adorable because the US has built 2 in the last 30 years. Musk's point? Well, Bitcoin's proof of work mining is anchored to something real, energy, while fiat is anchored to vibes and debt ceilings. Makes a good point. And Donald Trump, well, he's mad at Time magazine again. The president says the magazine's new November cover features the worst picture of all time. Let's take a look at it. Bring it up here. It's fun. Oh boy, yeah, he's not gonna like that. The photo that we can see here was shot from below with sunlight forming a faint halo over his head. Apparently it gave Trump the one thing he never asked for, divine lighting. He wrote, "They disappeared my hair," and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird. I like that he points out that it looked like a crown, but it was a small crown. If it was a big crown, he'd probably have less of a problem with it. But yeah, Trump officially called out Time magazine for giving him a baby-sized halo. That's our president. So forget global diplomacy. This is the hill that Trump is going to die on. The cover story itself was actually quite flattering, describing Trump's role in brokering a ceasefire between Israel and the Hamas, calling it his triumph and the leader Israel needed. So yeah, he liked the article, he just hated the angle. Of course, this isn't Trump's first fight with the fine arts. He previously raged against a Colorado Capitol portrait, calling it purposely distorted, and even updated his official White House photo earlier this year, swapping his blue tie for red and darkening the backdrop to look more dramatic. That is very dramatic. So say what you will about his politics, the man knows his brand lighting. Now, Time hasn't commented on this yet, probably because they're too busy trying not to make it worse. But at this point, Trump has grumbled about magazine covers, paintings, and portraits so many times that it might be the most consistent policy position of his career. And if you think about it, Bitcoiners and Trump actually have something in common. Both hate being misrepresented by legacy media. The difference is Bitcoin doesn't care about bad lighting. Meanwhile, President Trump is doing other things, and this time it's threatening China. And yeah, it's overused cooking oil, by the way. Yeah, you heard that right. Not microchips, not rare earth minerals, fried grease. On social media, Trump accused China of waging an economically hostile act by cutting soybean purchases and said the U.S. is considering terminating business involving cooking oil as payback. Which sounds a little dramatic until you realize U.S. imports of Chinese cooking oil have already plunged about 65% this year. Traders say the move will have minimal impact because China's already stopped selling to us and shifted most of its orders to Europe. So this isn't really a trade war, it's a food fight over leftovers. The U.S. used to be China's top buyer of used cooking oil, but after Washington slapped tariffs on Chinese goods and Beijing axed tax rebates, that trade went rancid faster than McDonald's grease. Now, Singapore, the Netherlands, and Malaysia have replaced the U.S. as the top buyers. So Trump's latest threat is like cutting off your ex who already blocked your number. Analysts say it's mostly political theater, a way to look tough for U.S. farmers as China keeps shifting soybean purchases to Brazil and Argentina. But still, it adds to the broader uncertainty roiling global markets, because every time Trump tweets about tariffs, Bitcoin traders start checking their liquidation alerts. And that's the real story here. Global investors are realizing that fiat markets can be wrecked by one man's breakfast tweet, and that's not good. Nobody likes that. And the Pentagon is trying to tighten control over the press, and every major news network basically said, yeah, no, we're good. Fox News, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, the AP, and Newsmax all joined forces to reject the Defense Department's new press access rule, which they say would restrict journalists' ability to report on national security. Yeah, so Fox and CNN actually agreed on something, so that means you know it's bad. The new Pentagon policy would require media outlets to sign an agreement promising to follow specific guidelines before getting access to officials or certain areas, and would bar them from using any unauthorized files. Or in other words, you can only report what we hand you when we feel like it. The networks called the rules unprecedented and a threat to press freedom, adding that they'll keep covering the U.S. military as independent journalists, not government stenographers. Only One America News said it was fine signing the rules, which is kind of like being the only kid who actually, brought an apple for the teacher. His ass. Now, the Pentagon, for its part, hasn't backed down yet and seems ready to move forward with the rules anyway, because, nothing says transparency like banning journalists from, asking questions. And let's be real here, this is the kind of government overreach that makes both libertarians and journalists reach for the same bottle of bourbon. So again, it's not good at all for any of us. And in other news, Roger Ver, better known as Bitcoin Jesus, has officially found out that even the IRS doesn't believe in resurrection. The longtime crypto evangelist just agreed to pay nearly $50 million to settle a U.S. tax evasion case without admitting guilt, of course, because rich people don't confess, they negotiate. The Justice Department says Ver failed to pay taxes on roughly $240 million worth of Bitcoin he sold back in 2016. Prosecutors accused him of dodging about $48 million in taxes, which, in fairness, might have seemed reasonable back when Bitcoin was under $1,000. He was arrested in Spain, released on bail in Mallorca, and then started lobbying for a pardon from President Trump. You really just can't make this stuff up, can you? Now, after years of legal jousting, Ver struck a deferred prosecution agreement with the DOJ, meaning no prison, just a massive check to Uncle Sam and a polite, don't, do that again. The DOJ said the deal sends a clear message that whether you deal in dollars or digital assets, you still have to pay your taxes. Or as Bitcoiners might put it, even the government wants to hodl your gains. Ver was once a hero in early crypto circles, preaching financial freedom, privacy, and decentralization long before it was cool. But this chapter proves a very harsh reality. Even Bitcoin Jesus can't outsmart the IRS. And somewhere out there, Satoshi just whispered, "Forgive them, for they know not the cost basis." And in New York, well, their outgoing mayor is leaving office the way every true Bitcoiner should, and that's by going out on a high note and probably in the red. Eric Adams, known affectionately as the Bitcoin mayor after taking his first paychecks in BTC and ETH, just signed an executive order creating the first ever city office for digital assets and blockchain. Now, the move makes New York the first U.S. city to have an official crypto department, which is pretty wild considering this is the same city that gave us the Bit license. Now, according to Adams, the goal is to make New York the global capital of digital assets, attract talent, grow the economy, and modernize government. Now, under the new office, the city plans to support responsible crypto companies and look into using blockchain for records and city services. It's a big swing for a mayor who's out in January after dropping out of the re-election race over campaign finance drama. But to his credit, Adams stayed pro-Bitcoin to the end. He even called for scrapping the state's infamous Bit license and replacing it with something friendlier to innovation and less friendly to paperwork. And silver, if you haven't been paying attention, has hit $51 an ounce. That's its highest price since 1980, which means if your grandma's silverware goes missing, you might want to check your roommate's crypto wallet. The shiny metal is up 75% this year thanks to investors stampeding towards safe havens amid inflation, tariffs, and the kind of geopolitical drama that makes succession look well adjusted. Gold's record-breaking run to $4,000 an ounce helped drag silver up with it, the same way your broke friend tags along to bottle service hoping to get one drink for free. The silver's the budget gold for investors who still want to feel fancy without mortgaging their house, and right now, it's paying off. But unlike gold, silver's not just for hoarding, it's also a key industrial metal used in solar panels, smartphones, and data centers. So when you buy silver, you're technically investing in both renewable energy and people doom scrolling on Twitter. Silver's ETFs have also surged. The iShares Silver Trust is up 68% this year, with inflows at their highest level since 2020. And while gold, silver, and platinum are all spiking, they're also all competing with Bitcoin for the same investors looking to hide from the dollar. Because in 2025, safe haven basically means anything the Fed can't print. So whether you're hoarding metals or stacking Satoshis, the message is the same. Faith in fiat is fading faster than Elon's promises about robo-taxis. And Mark Cuban has officially entered his Robin Hood of capitalism era. The billionaire entrepreneur took to X this week, arguing that companies should give every employee stock options, not just the C-suite crew cashing 8-figure bonuses. He wrote, "Why are we not giving incentives to companies to require them to give shares in their companies to all employees at the same percentage of cash earnings as the CEO? Or in other words, if the CEO is getting paid in yachts, the janitor deserves at least a jet ski." Cuban said the real wealth gap comes from stock ownership, not salary. Billionaire fortunes balloon because of stock market growth. And as he pointed out, you know who's funding that? Retail investors, 401ks. Or in other words, the little guys are pumping the system that keeps the big guys rich. But Cuban practices what he preaches. At broadcast.com, 300 out of 330 employees became millionaires when he sold the company. At Micro Solutions and HDNet, he handed out up to 20% of profits to his staff. He's basically the only billionaire who can walk into a room full of former employees and not need a security detail. Cuban also cited NVIDIA as the new gold standard. Half their employees are reportedly millionaires, and nearly 80% hold some form of company stock. And when your cafeteria workers have Lamborghinis, you know the employee stock plan's working just fine. Now, what's the bigger picture here, though? Well, Cuban's calling for a culture shift, one where ownership isn't reserved for the boardroom. Because in his eyes, capitalism only works if everyone gets a piece of the pie. And if there's one thing Bitcoiners can agree on, it's that ownership beats wages every time. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, we're going to have more of today's top news in just a bit. We're going to have our special guest of the day, Fernando, the Bitcoin libertarian, who's going to stop in and help us make sense of it all. So stay tuned. More Blockchain Report coming your way after this quick break. All right, we're back, and let's see what's going on in the good old Roxom X account. If you aren't already, make sure you're subscribing. This is where you can get all the best signal in the business. Just check out Roxom, RoxomTV on Twitter, and you'll see what's going on here. But let's take a peek. First up, we got, looks like this is breaking news. The U.S. approves Erebor, a new Bitcoin and crypto bank backed by billionaire Peter Thiel and Palmer Luckey. I mean, listen, I'm not the biggest Peter Thiel fan in the world. I think he's kind of evil. But it's kind of akin to BlackRock, right? These guys aren't doing these things because it's not a benefit to them. They don't think Bitcoin's going to succeed. So when you see the biggest players in the world, the Larry Finks, the Peter Thiels, all lining up to start Bitcoin ETFs or Bitcoin-backed businesses, the writing is very much on the wall here, gang. So you got to watch what these big guys are doing, because they're not doing it for your health. They're doing it for theirs and for their pocketbook. So take a look. That's big news. But again, I do think Peter Thiel might be a robot. Moving down here, let's see. We got Cynthia Lummis is coming out with a talk here. Are we able to play that video, guys? Let's see if it works. It's a live show. You never know, right? Let's see. Cynthia? Oh, she's trying. Well, it looks like the audio's not working. But essentially, Cynthia Lummis came out and said, wouldn't it be fun if the U.S. is buying Bitcoin and it scares China and Russia to start buying Bitcoin? I mean, whether it's China, whether it's Russia or somebody else, I think we're at that point right now where the world is just waiting for permission to start stacking Satoshis actively on their own, but someone, one of the major players, is going to take that leap first, and it's probably going to be a first mover advantage type of thing, right? So whether it's us doing it first or China or Russia, I got a feeling that once one of these dominoes fall, we're going to see this global arms race to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible by all of these larger nations. And that's when things start getting really fun. And that is when it's going to become increasingly harder to get your hands on a full Bitcoin. Even 0.1 Bitcoin, because remember, gang, everybody's thinking, oh, Bitcoin's price is so high, I can't afford it anymore. You can get Bitcoin. It is divisible down to the 8th decimal point. So whether you have 0.1 or 1 or 100, you need to start thinking about where this is going and allocating your funds to protect them however you best see fit. Because listen, this isn't going away. This is up and to the right for 17 years now. What would make you think that is going to stop with all of these developments we're seeing just this year alone? Right, has been its own beast. We're seeing the Bitcoin strategic reserve that Trump has talked about. We actually haven't started accumulating Bitcoin yet, but hey, it's a start. You know, we're seeing institutional adoption all over the place. There's over 190 publicly traded companies that have their own Bitcoin treasuries right now. We're seeing ETFs. Again, BlackRock has the fastest growing ETF in history with the IBIT, which should be over $100 billion here in the not too distant future. So gang, the writing is on the wall. There's a lot of lip service right now as we wait for that next big catalyst, that next big move, which will very likely come because of a big public company, maybe a Mag 7 company coming out and saying they're accumulating Bitcoin, or one of the larger nations in the world like the United States, like China, like Russia. And once that happens, we're all going to be reaching for our picks and shovels because the gold rush, the digital gold rush, will be very much on. So it's important that you're always keeping abreast of these new developments because that is telling you where the world is going, gang. And the best place to do that, you go to Twitter or X, whatever, and check out RoxomTV. We have a whole team 24/7, always posting the most up-to-date info in the market so that you know what to expect next. And that's what it's all about, right? It's having that info so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family as we progress into the future and through, Bitcoin's journey that we're seeing here change fundamentally here in year 16, 17, whatever it is. So make sure you're following RoxomTV on Twitter, best place on the interwebs right now to get your Bitcoin info. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we're back, we're going to talk about a little tales from Hollywood and what does Donald Trump and what was that movie, Home Alone 2, have in common? Well, we're going to talk about it right after this break, so stay tuned. More Blockchain Report coming your way after this short break. All right, welcome back. It's time for a little tales from Hollywood. So let's see what's going on in the land of Holly weirdos. Well, right now we got Tim Curry. You might remember him he was an actor, and he's officially joined the long list of people who've had an awkward encounter with the Trumps. This one is straight out of Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. You guys remember that movie. Although he was lost in New York, so he really wasn't Home Alone. It really should have been like Home Alone 2, Amber Alert, or something if today, that's how it would play out. All right, so the legendary actor who played the Plaza Hotel concierge in the 1992 sequel told The Guardian he once lied to Ivana Trump, Donald Trump's ex-wife, and then president of the Plaza, when she personally asked if he liked his hotel room. She knocked on my door and said, "Are you happy in your room? Do you like the way it looks?" Curry recalled and said, "I loathed it actually," but he told her that it was lovely, which might be the most British response in history. Curry also shared a story about Donald Trump's hands-on involvement during production, as apparently Trump, who owned the Plaza at the time, was desperate to introduce his then-girlfriend, Marla Maplesto, to director Chris Columbus, calling her a brilliant actress. Everyone says so. Now, Curry's internal reaction to all this was, yeah, Donald, I'm sure. Now, it does get better. According to Columbus, Trump basically bullied his way into the movie, saying the only way they could shoot at the Plaza was that if he got a cameo. Man knows marketing. So yeah, Kevin McAllister didn't just get lost in New York, he got strong-armed into product placement. The kicker here, when the film was screened, audiences cheered when Trump appeared on screen, so the director kept him in. Looking back, the whole situation feels like a deleted scene from Succession or something. Power plays, vanity cameos, and lies about hotel decor. Still, if there's one takeaway from all this, it's this. Tim Curry remains a national treasure, Donald Trump remains a master of self-promotion, and Ivana probably should have hired an interior designer with better taste. All right, Victor, I want to talk to you about this one. You've seen Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, right?
Than the original.
Really? Did you like it better?
I think I just owned the VHS. Oh, I did own it, not that I think it,
Okay.
but so the rewatchability of it. I didn't own the first one, so
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we shouldn't be surprised by this. It seems like the seeds of Donald Trump sowing himself into pop culture began long ago, and this was back in 1992. I mean, this is kind of a very on brand for Trump, isn't it?
yeah, I think so. I don't know if you mentioned it, but like he pushed himself in this movie. Like he let the production, use his hotel if he was allowed to be in the movie. So
Yeah, he
otherwise they
certainly
wouldn't have
seems
filmed
like
in
he
there.
strong-armed him.
Yeah,
Yeah, and even
basically.
more egregious, yet totally on brand for Trump, was that he was insistent on introducing his girlfriend at the time to the director, to Columbus, who, if I remember, Ivana was there. So I think they were still married, and he's parading around with his girlfriend to the point where he's introducing her to the director to get her a job. Like, this is
Right.
so Trump, right? Oh man.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Trump movie? I think we talked about
Yeah,
off the show.
What's it called? It was Sebastian
Apprentice.
Apprentice, yeah.
Yeah.
It did a really good
Yeah.
job. And the actress that plays Ivana, I forgot her name, but she did a really good job too.
She was good. What's his
Yeah.
face from Succession? I thought was kind of the scene stealer from that
Oh,
one.
yes,
His name is
yes.
currently escaping me. Who played Roy Cohn was particularly
Jeremy
great.
something, I think. I forget his name too.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But
I know. Yeah.
what's surprising about this movie, like I watched it so many times, this Home Alone 2,
Yeah.
and I just noticed that Tim Curry was a guy from the hotel. Like
Right.
I didn't even like think about that. And like I watched it so many times and I'm like, oh shoot, that was him.
Yeah, he was like the pesky hotel manager that
Yeah.
trying to be like, who was very suspicious of Kevin McAllister, like being in the hotel by
Right.
himself the whole time, right?
Yeah.
He's not looking too good these days. I hope he's doing all right. I
Oh.
think he's like kind of bound to a chair these days. But we thoughts and prayers for you, Tim. We thought you did a great job in that movie. I will say though, have your feelings about Trump. I almost want to see him in more movies. Can we just get like Donald Trump and cameos of everything, like the next
Oh, that
Jurassic
song, can you
Park
bring
with
up
the
the
Donald Trump
picture?
cameo?
This is him in Home Alone 2, by the way. I don't know if you remember the scene.
Oh yeah, I do remember the scene. Yeah, yeah. Boy, what would be the one movie right now or franchise if you could insert Trump for a needless cameo, you would put him in? Because I think I'm here for it, frankly, and I'm sure he would be too. He'll just take anything, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something I'm not a fan of.
I think
Oh, you know
Jurassic
what?
Park would be hilarious. I want to see Donald Trump and dinosaurs.
Sure. It would be funny, Fast and the Furious.
Ooh, I like that. Donald
Because those
drives
movies
up,
get
he's like
more
in the back
ridiculous
seat.
every time. So like he
They
would probably
do.
allow production to film like in the White House if that was the case.
And if there's somebody that really, cares about family, it's Donald Trump. I mean, he has been talking about how beautiful his daughter is since she was a preteen. So, I think him and Vin Diesel or Dominic Toretto, I believe is his name in the movie, would get along just fine. But who
Yeah.
knows? All right, we're gonna take a quick break here, unless you got anything else, any final thoughts on
Nope.
Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. All right, we're taking a break, but when we're back, more of today's top news, and Fernando, the Bitcoin libertarian, will be joining us in just a bit to help us make sense of it all. So stay tuned. Blockchain Report coming right back after this. Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? Sure you are. I mean, I am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. You can buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee, and right now you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Just go to Gemini.com to learn more. All right, welcome back. It's time for more of this morning's Bull Run, where we go over the top stories of the day. But joining us For All Bull Run today, we have a special guest. He is the freedom-minded firebrand who's been orange pilling the world, one meme and one Michael Saylor quote at a time. He runs Crocs Road, hosts the Bitcoin Libertarian podcast, and somehow managed to explain Austrian economics to people who still use Venmo. Let's give a big blockchain report. Welcome back to the show to our friend and fellow hodler, Fernando, the Bitcoin Libertarian, everybody. Fernando, always great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for being here, for having me here. Thanks for the nice introduction. Good morning from Hong Kong. You know we are in the future. And good morning for you in America.
Thank you, Fernando. And I know we're glad we got you pinned down to Hong Kong because it's my understanding you are going to be hopping all over the world here in the next couple of weeks, going to some big conferences. Tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing here in the next few weeks. It sounded pretty exciting.
Yes. After a year of being here in Hong Kong with a lot of things like running my podcast, moving to a new apartment, running other projects that I am doing here in Hong Kong, I got an invitation for La BitConf, that is the oldest Bitcoin conference of the world in Buenos Aires, Argentina, my hometown. So I've got invited to be a speaker at the conference. So I decided, okay, let's travel there. It's going to be a good time to speak at the conference, meet Bitcoiners from there that I met on the podcast and never met in person, and also, of course, visiting my family, visiting my mom, my brother, my godson, my friends there. So, and previous to that, I am also attending to Lugano Plan B conference. Again, I was, they are running a very nice contest that is like a Shark Tank for Bitcoin projects. Mm-hmm. So I think that they received 150 applications of Bitcoin projects, and they are going to select 11 that they will go and pitch on the judge for a price. They will be getting, I think, 150,000 US plus some extra money if they want to allocate in Lugano, and of course they will be also introduced to investors. Unfortunately, you cannot. It's not possible to apply because the application closed that week. But I was approached by Mike Jarmus, the founder of Lightning Ventures, if I can give some advertising. We did a live stream with Giacomo Succo. I featured them on our newsletter. So I was invited with a press ticket. So for me, I say, okay, if I'm going to Buenos Aires, it's going to be good to do a stopover in Europe, to have a huge jet lag when I arrive in Argentina. So I will be attending to Lugano. So next week at this time, I will be flying to Switzerland. I will be in Lugano the 2 days of the conference. I will be running for Halfini with Bitcoiners in Lugano. I hope to interview Bitcoiners to create good content, upload to my channel all the biggest takeaways from the conference. And after Lugano, I'm flying to Buenos Aires to La BitConf. I will be speaking there. I think that I will be speaking in a panel talking about how Bitcoin changed you, together with other Bitcoiners, Spanish-speaking Bitcoiners. And again, there are a lot of events, side events, plus I know a lot of people from Argentina that are into Bitcoin that I had in my jaw, and now they want to meet me in person. So I will be very busy visiting my family and the Bitcoiners, and of course the conference.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a pretty busy couple of weeks coming up here. I'm getting a little tired just listening to what you're telling me, all the stuff you're going to be doing, and I guess that's speaking my age at this point. And yeah, Mike the Muzz Jarmuz, we had him on the show last week. He's great, and that's super exciting with that contest. I'll be really interested to see how that turns out, and that's amazing. You're going to get to speak there, so it sounds like some fun times abroad for you, but I wish you well in the travels because that sounds exhausting to me. Even a transcontinental flight across the United States at this point, it's too much for me.
The good thing is that we are flying to Europe, and we are going to be around with my friend, with my business partner. We are going to be around 7 days because we go to the conference and then we rent a car and then we are going to go around Switzerland for a few days. and take a rest. But I will keep streaming while I'm in Switzerland and in Argentina as well. And of course, I will be in the Roxom show. No matter if I am in Switzerland or in the airport or in Buenos Aires, I will be here. And yes, it's gonna be exhausting, but I haven't traveled for a year. So for me, and I'm like this, I love the airplanes. And for me, every time I go on a trip, I am on the airplane. I'm like a small kid that is the first time flying. I am always watching. I'm so excited. So I enjoy a lot traveling.
Yeah, no, that sounds super fun, and I love to hear it. Like Bitcoin, it sounds like you never sleep and you're always on and you're still going to be keeping up your appearances, which I love. I just hope you're not flying through the United States here with this government shutdown. The flight situation has gotten not great, massive delays. I actually was coming back from Chicago last weekend, and they didn't tell us till much later, but there was a situation, we were landing at SFO, and you could feel the plane like starting to come down, and all of a sudden the boosters got pushed up, and everyone's like, what is going on? I looked down and to the right of us, about 500 feet, there was another plane right beneath us. And I was like, this is getting a little scary. So hopefully you're staying away from the United States flight patterns right now.
No, I'm flying to Europe and then to Argentina, and I don't go through United States.
Okay. Good. Love to hear it. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about today, Fernando. So we're going to get into our first story. We're going to bring you right back, and then we're going to talk about it. Sound good?
Excellent.
Let's do it. All right, first up, we might remember we touched upon it earlier, but Congress has entered its number go up era. A Republican representative has introduced a bill that would turn President Trump's crypto retirement order into federal law, officially allowing 401k plans to include Bitcoin. The move would give Trump's executive order a permanent feature of the U.S. retirement system. Supporters say it'll supercharge retirement security by giving savers exposure to high-growth assets. The U.S. retirement industry manages $25 trillion, and even a small percentage flowing into Bitcoin would be a tsunami of liquidity. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, we're talking about a bill here that could let Americans stack Satoshis inside of their 401ks. That's basically orange pilling your retirement plan. What does this moment represent for Bitcoin's legitimacy? What do you think?
Well, I think that talking about the retirement plans, they are always allocated to low risk assets. So if they allow Bitcoin to go into the retirement plans, the retirement accounts, it indirectly are saying the United States government is saying Bitcoin is not a risk asset. So for me, it's amazing because my retirement plan is here in Hong Kong, and I wish I could put the retirement plan on Bitcoin that is mandatory to have there, but I cannot. I have in fiat, and it's very good for the Bitcoin ecosystem because, again, allows a lot of money flows to Bitcoin, what it's gonna put the price up, especially now in October that is going down. I don't know what's going on, but at the end of on the other side, it's gonna be amazing for the people that have the money in the retirement accounts because we know everyone who understands the retirement plans are a Ponzi scheme. So are people putting money today to pay the retirements of the people who is now retired, and with the money debasement and with inflation, when the generation of my age gets retired in 20-25 years, they're gonna have zero. So if they can allocate Bitcoin on that, it's gonna be amazing because you know that Bitcoin is, if you do the zoom out, Bitcoin is going to go up forever. So if you can allocate, I don't know, or the whole amount, I would allocate the whole amount of my retirement account. But if you could allocate, let's say 20%, 30% for some money that you are forced to keep untouched until you are 60, 65, I don't know the regulations there, is amazing because it's gonna be good for Bitcoin. First, because you accept Bitcoin as a low risk asset. Second, because there's gonna be a lot of money going to Bitcoin that will make the price go up. And third, the people with these retirement account that are melting ice cubes, the day they retire, they will have a lot of money, or I don't know if they will have a lot of money, but they will be able to retire and live their last years of their lives very happy because they won't lose the purchasing power of the money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a big deal. And, part of the thing I think that we're not taking into account with how big of a deal this is usually like 401k plans and Roth IRAs and those types of things. Usually you get penalized if you take things out early. So in some ways, you could argue if people had exposure directly to Bitcoin, they're incentivized to have diamond hands until they retire. So that you would think kind of helps stabilize Bitcoin's floor a little, even more than we're seeing this year, which is only a boon for the price going forward, especially when, they said it's about a $25 trillion market. So if even 1% of US retirement pools flow into Bitcoin, what do you think that does to the price? And maybe more importantly, the public perception of Bitcoin as we're in this unique inflection point in Bitcoin's journey?
Yes, we have, let's say the I don't know if 1% would do much, but let's say if we get 10% of this 25 trillion, the trillion industry or this trillion of dollars, we double the market cap of Bitcoin. So, and
right.
Of course, if we do the math, it will double the price of Bitcoin. That's what I say. Like just a little less 10% will just double the price of Bitcoin. We'll go to over 200K. And the good thing is that these accounts, I don't know how it works in the United States. I know that you can take the money out before your retirement or get a loan against. I don't know how it works. You can get the money out before the retirement or not?
You can, but usually you get some kind of penalty for taking things out early.
Well, but the thing is that, let's say if I could retire, if I could get the money out of my retirement account from Hong Kong, even though I get a penalty of 40%, I would do it and put into Bitcoin. So that's because I'm a maximalist, of course, because I know that if I put the 60% in 10 years, I will recover the penalty and win more money. But for people who don't want to, I'm always thinking about how to bring new people into Bitcoin, not to of course I want to buy more, but I want more people to come into Bitcoin. And imagine if you are forced to put the money there and say, okay, I have this amount of money, I cannot touch until I am 60, 65, I don't know. What if I put a small amount into Bitcoin and see what happens? As Satoshi said, maybe we can, I don't know if it was Satoshi or Halfini, but maybe we can put a lot of money there in case it goes up. So imagine if, like, again, 10% of the people, 10% of all the funds are allocated into Bitcoin, it would double the price.
Yeah.
So it's super bullish. And again, for me, it's amazing because for the people who opt to put Bitcoin into their retirement accounts, it's going to be amazing because in a couple of years, they will have a lot of money that they wouldn't have had if they keep their money in the retirement account. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And
also that ability for people to, go ahead, please.
And also it's a good example to start, because the pensions in all over the world, the system is broken. So the pension system is broken. In Argentina, we have now they are protesting because of the retirees are getting few money. But this happened since I was a kid. Since my grandparents told that the retirement money was crap. So I think that if we can use Bitcoin to solve the problem of the retirement accounts, so people when they reach, because we live in a world that now when people get retired, if you didn't save outside of that, for example, my mom has savings out of her retirement money. Otherwise, she would be poor. I would have to help her. But if we can put the Bitcoin on this, we are going to fix the problem of retirement in a couple of years. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and like you said too earlier, Usually retirement accounts are for what are considered more like safe, traditional investment vehicles. So even if we got 1% of 25 trillion, so we're talking 250 billion, that equals about 1/10 of our current market cap. But what that does, I think, on a psychological level of getting people to dip their toe in the water, and as time goes by, they're going to see their gains from their Bitcoin compared to everything else in their portfolio. And all of a sudden, everyone's going to be a little more open to allocating a little bit more. And we've seen that from big banks, you know? It was like, oh, maybe 1%, 2%, 2 to 4. And now you have some people out there saying 15% or more. So it is certainly, I think, a wave in the right direction of helping that Bitcoin adoption going forward. And I'm pretty excited about it, but we'll see how it ultimately plays out. But I don't want to get my moss in Bitcoin.
Yes, and also I have a few 2 months ago, I interviewed in my podcast a guy that works for an Australian retirement fund that they allocate a small portion of Bitcoin. And with this small portion of Bitcoin, I think that is something around 60 million US dollars or 60 million Australian dollars, something like that. That is nothing, it's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared with all the funds that they manage and the returns that it gets. They show that the returns are incredible. And with just allocating this small portion into Bitcoin, they got a lot of calls from people who want to move their retirement funds to there because they use Bitcoin. So this opened the Pandora box. So all these movements are towards the hyper-Bitcoinization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's certainly looking that way. And Fernando, I do have to ask though, you're Fernando the Bitcoin libertarian, and libertarians usually hate government meddling. So how do you reconcile that with a law that could actually help Bitcoin adoption? Are you just kind of looking at it as like a net positive, or what is your view on that?
Well, I'm a libertarian. My ideas are more anarcho-capitalist ideas. Of course, I hate the governments. For me, the state is the enemy. But we live in a world with rules. I'm not stupid. So I think that to get to this ideal world that we are fighting for, that probably I'm not gonna see it. Probably my children or my grandchildren are gonna see this world, but we need first the governments need to adopt Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin is gonna eat the governments. That's the point. Yeah. But now we live in a world with regulations. And although I'm against all the kind of regulation, I think that taxation is theft and all the things that we, the libertarians, think, we live in a world with regulations, and most of the people are attached to this regulation. And if I say, no, we can do this, nobody's going to follow me. So I think that I always speak the same. The governments adopting Bitcoin or putting rules that allow you to expose to Bitcoin and make Bitcoin more like legal. Remember that 15 years ago, Bitcoin was only for drug traffickers and in the black market. Yeah. So now the states are adopting Bitcoin, the governments are being Bitcoin friendly. It's a good way to make the massive adoption. And sooner or later, Bitcoin is going to become, it's going to go into the rabbit hole, and they will understand what Bitcoin is, what tool they have in their hands. So they will, at that time, they will say, okay, F the governments. So, but we need a long time. I don't like the governments, but we live in a society and we live in rules, and I cannot go, I cannot change it. So I think that all this system is gonna implode, but it's gonna take time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And with each pro-Bitcoin thing we see, allocating it for pensions or government stockpiling it, it's just one more step on that ladder or in that stairwell up into the right for Bitcoin's future. And you and I know that about as well as anybody.
That's the point.
I think it's
That's the point.
Stuff. Yeah. Yes. All right, Fernando, we're moving on to our next story, so hang tight. Back with you in a second, because the U.S. prosecutors recently announced the largest crypto seizure in history, 127,000 Bitcoin, after uncovering a Cambodia-based mega scam called the Prince Holding Group. It's a human trafficking meets crypto fraud operation run by Chinese businessman Chen Zi, also known as Vincent, who allegedly traded citizenship for shell companies and yachts. The Department of Justice says Chen's team lured thousands of workers into job offers, locked them in compounds, and forced them to run pig butchering schemes where victims are emotionally fattened up before being digitally slaughtered on fake trading sites. Funds were laundered through more than 100 shell companies, spun through exchanges and mining ops, and parked in private wallets now worth over $14 billion. The Treasury Department slapped sanctions on the group and seized their wallets, meaning the American government could quietly add another $14 billion worth of Bitcoin to its strategic Bitcoin reserve. That would bring Uncle Sam's stash to roughly 325,000 total Bitcoin. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, the U.S. seized 127,000 BTC, the biggest crypto confiscation in history. What's more surprising to you, the scam or that the government might now be one of the biggest hodlers on earth? What do you think?
No, the scam doesn't. Having been living in Asia for almost 10 years, these kind of scams don't surprise me, because when you, for example, I was explaining that yesterday I have two friends that came to Hong Kong because they are going to China for business. And I was explaining this, that is a problem that is happening in Thailand, that there are gangs that they kidnap Chinese people for Cambodia and Myanmar to do this kind of scams, the pig butchering scams. And it's something that I know because when you use the dating apps here in Hong Kong, there are some profiles that they are very good-looking girls that, okay, you match, and they start talking to you like simple, nothing strange, and suddenly they start talking to you about investments that, oh, look at the watch, the Rolex I bought, the Louis Vuitton, and I do this because I invest. So these scams are not new and are being here for long, and it's different from the other scams that they do from West Africa, that they are more like these guys who seduce old ladies and take the money. I like watching that. There is a good show on YouTube that they show this scam.
90 Day Fiance?
No. 90 Day Fiance is so
kind of.
No. It's not 90 Day Fiance. This is called social catfish or something. It's amazing because they explain and they aware people about this kind of scams. But yeah, in Southeast Asia is this pig butchering scam that is easily someone gets in contact with you, is either through Facebook or through a dating app, and they start telling you, they show you their fancy life, and they want to help you, and usually is that you have to deposit some crypto in some account, that there are fake websites, and of course it ends up, of course, being scammed. So for me, and also it's a surprise that the government now is reaching the goals of creating the strategic Bitcoin reserve just with seizing funds from these scammers. It's good, and it's good for the Americans, because now you have a government that they are not going to sell the Bitcoin. In the past, when the government says Bitcoin, they sell the Bitcoin, and that happened in Germany, that they sold at 50K. So I think that is good for the government. It's good, this seizure of the Bitcoin, because it's now in hands of the government, that they are not going to sell it, and they are keep building the stack. And of course, there are a lot of scams that they use Bitcoin, and in the future, they can confiscate more Bitcoin and keep creating the Bitcoin reserve without spending money. That's why probably now United States is spending money in the Argentinian peso reserve.
Right. We'll see how that works out. I don't know how I feel about that one. But I'm glad you brought that point up, because all this time, anytime I saw a beautiful girl in a dating app talking to me and then talking about financial advice, I was like, oh, she must really like me. She's a smart one. But I'm glad I haven't fallen for it yet, because those scams are all too real. And with AI, it's getting really hard to tell what's real and what's not. It's wild. But, it kind of to the point, though, it reminds me that, people conflate Bitcoin and crypto as a whole with this scam stuff because they're very public and they happen. But this isn't a Bitcoin problem. This is a human problem. And we've seen it time and again. When I started my business LLC, I would get scam messages in snail mail asking me to do things that made it look like they were from the government, and they're not. So it's like no matter what it is, if people see opportunity, there's going to be scammers out there, whether it's Bitcoin or something else. But let's not confuse Bitcoin as being the scam, because it's really the scammers that just oftentimes give it that bad name. And we saw it back with, it's kind of like with Silk Road. People, like you said earlier, confused Bitcoin as being something only for illicit activity. No, that's not what it was, but was it used for that in the past? It was, because it was good at that back then, but we've seen it evolve, and Bitcoin ain't the same thing that we knew back in 2011 days. So yeah, but every time we do see these types of giant seizures, Fernando, it reminds people how transparent the blockchain actually is. However, do you think that this helps Bitcoin's reputation, or does it in fact fuel that crypto equals crime narrative? Because I feel like it can be a little confusing for people not in the know.
But I think that at the first time it can be because we need to separate the scams that use Bitcoin as tool and the scams that are doing using crypto, that are the meme coins and the rug pools. So I think that the scams are gonna, again, it's like, of course they are gonna, what they are gonna start using now is AI, because probably, again, you engage with a girl on the dating apps, and okay, now you're gonna say, okay, let's do a video call. And you do a video call, and probably you see a real girl talking to you with no problem, because it's done by AI. So, and what we are gonna say? That AI is for scam? No, it's a tool that the scammers use. And also, as you said, the transparency, anything can be tracked on the blockchain. It's different if you get scammed with cash. If you get scammed with cash, it's probably difficult to track. But Bitcoin is super transparent. And of course, there are banks that can laundry the cash. That's the point. With Bitcoin, you cannot clean your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoins are there. No matter if you got from an illicit activity or a legal activity, your Bitcoins are there on the blockchain. And if you get caught, you got the Bitcoins seized. So that's the point.
Right. And Fernando, from a libertarian's perspective, should governments even have the right to hold seized Bitcoin, or should they do something else with it, like destroy it, auction it off, or give it back to taxpayers? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, now we live in, of course, there are costs associated. As a the libertarians, my vision of a state, the state needs to give you security and justice, not more than that. All the rest of the things must be private. So the state, the government, spends money in get this Bitcoin, because it's not like, okay, I just contact this person, I see this Bitcoin, I see it. There are months of investigation, a lot of people involved in investigation, salaries from the CIA, the FBI that are investigating. So I think that needs to remain on the hands of the state. And again, do it if the government has a Bitcoin, it's better for their citizens. So I think that is a good way to make the better economy and a better reserve asset for the government. At the end of the day, it's good for the people. So I think that it must be kept by the governments, and don't sell, because if they collect and they sell, it's stupid. Imagine if you are gonna sell Bitcoin, you are the U.S. government. You have Bitcoin, you sell it, and you get dollars. Dollar is something that you can print out of nothing. So it's stupid if you sell. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and that's well put, well put. All right, we're moving on to our next story, so hang tight. Fernando, we'll be back with you in a second, because after years of shilling Dogecoin and pretending to care about the environment, the world's richest chaos agent, Elon Musk, is once again calling Bitcoin energy money, saying it's impossible to fake, unlike fiat. He posted, "You can issue fake currency. Every government in history has, but you can't fake energy." Now, Musk's comments came in response to a thread about the AI arms race, where nations are printing trillions of dollars to power their shiny new data centers. And if that sounds sustainable, it's not. Goldman Sachs says global data center energy demand will surge 165% by 2030. And to keep up, the world would need up to 70 new nuclear reactors by 2028. Musk's point? Bitcoin's proof of work mining is anchored to something real, energy, while fiat is anchored to vibes and debt ceilings. Bringing Fernando back. Fernando, Elon is back to calling Bitcoin energy money after years of Dogecoin detours. Does this feel like vindication for Bitcoin maxis, or is he just late to the party again? What are your thoughts on Elon?
I think he's not late. I think that Elon is the richest person in the world. And if you are the richest person in the world, especially Elon, you are not stupid. It's like this guy like built. It's not only that he is rich, like for example Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. He is been building breakthrough technology for humanity. He created not created, but he made the electric car possible. If it wasn't because of Elon, we wouldn't have the revolution of electric cars, of EV. Because in the past, like you have the EV and you can drive from my house to the supermarket and have no more battery. So now you have these amazing Teslas, and it led the revolution. Now you're sending rockets to the space and recovering it. He's trying to put people on Mars. So it's incredible what he's smart. I know that he understood Bitcoin from day zero. There were some rumors that he was Satoshi, but I don't think so.
Right.
There are some rumors, but I think that there is something why he's now being vocal about Bitcoin. I'm sure that he understood, and on the shadows, he was a Bitcoiner, or he is a Bitcoiner, and I don't know why he's not being vocal, but a guy like Elon, a guy with the vision of Elon, if I understood Bitcoin, like, let's say 5-6 years ago, I'm sure that that Elon must have understood at least 6 years earlier than me, because it's a guy who, as an entrepreneurial view, I cannot understand how his brain works. So it's impossible that he has just understood Bitcoin. I think that now he's becoming vocal. I don't know why. I don't understand why, but it's good for Bitcoin to have Elon now talking good about Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, wasn't it back in 2021, Tesla made some pretty substantial Bitcoin purchases that kind of had the whole market, in a kind of a frenzy, but we haven't really heard much about it since, although I think it just came out that SpaceX actually has their own Bitcoin treasury as well. And you can say what you want about Elon. I know he's kind of a polarizing figure these days, but the guy's a needle mover, right? Like you said, he's trying to send people to Mars, the electric car, the Boring Company. Like, how many companies can you simultaneously run at once while also producing something out of each company? So I kind of look at him as like the Da Vinci of the modern day a little bit. The guy just is inventing things that are going to push humanity forward. And in terms of Bitcoin now, it is a little interesting that he would come out and say that. But I do like his term energy money for it, because as I'm sure you've had times where you've had to explain what the inherent value to Bitcoin is, right? And it's kind of an interesting question, and a lot of detractors will say it's based upon nothing. But kind of the explanation I've been using for like the last year or so is that the value of Bitcoin lies in the energy needed to create this secure and decentralized network that operates outside of any middleman institution like a government, right? And that's kind of, I think, where the value lies. But we've had a hard time, I think, explaining that to masses that didn't already understand Bitcoin. So the energy money thing kind of resonates with me in that regard a lot. Now, Elon's point, though, in this story was that you can fake currency, but you can't fake energy. So my question is, how does that line hit you, Fernando? I mean, this is coming from the guy who literally powering half the EV grid. What do you think?
Yes, that's. I think that's the best explanation for Bitcoin. Like you cannot print energy. Just and another thing is a quote that I think that probably is also a call to create more energy, because in order to evolve as a civilization, the growth of civilization is measured on the energy that the civilization uses and of course produces. So with all the advance of AI, with Bitcoin, with the EVs, with all the things, I think we need energy. And I probably his quote was about, okay, we need to produce more energy because now we have Bitcoin. A lot of people is using energy to secure the Bitcoin network because it's the value of the Bitcoin is energy, decentralization, and mathematics. And on the other side, we have the AI that is consuming a lot of energy. And I think that the bottleneck for AI now is energy. It's not the chips or the computers or the data center. It's this energy. So probably it's a call, awakening call to say, okay, we need to stop doing this crap of saving energy or all these whatever ESG resolutions, and we need to focus in create more energy, because we need to create more energy for AI and to secure the most powerful money that we have. And he also asked Grok about the quantum computers. If the quantum, what is the probability for quantum computers to break the algorithm, the SHA-256?
Right.
And I had asked, because I recorded a video for my channel in Spanish talking about the quantum fad, and I checked some data with Grok because I use Grok all day, and I had these same answers.
Yeah, the quantum issue is interesting. We actually had a professor from UC Davis come on the show a few weeks ago and talk about it. And I feel like we're at this unique area where really nobody knows how soon it's coming. I've heard 2 to 3 years. I've heard 5 at the earliest. Some people say 10. So that to me right now is kind of the big question. But also, you know, if quantum computing ends up coming in 2 to 3 years, I don't think Bitcoin's going to be the first thing on its chopping block. My PIN code for my bank is like 4 numbers. It'll be able to, you know, instantaneously break into anything it wants. And Bitcoin would probably be one of the harder things. So, you know, we'll see how that all plays out. But I want to go back to Elon here in Tesla. Oh, go ahead, please.
No. What you said is, I always say the same. The point is that most of the people think that the Bitcoin network is safer, is more difficult to hack than the bank network. And the bank network has a similar safetiness than the Bitcoin network, but it has a little layers that it makes the banking network very difficult to hack. The problem is the incentives. You can hack the banking network, stole money, and turn into Bitcoin. But if we can hack the Bitcoin network, what we are gonna do is send the price to zero immediately. So imagine you use a lot of computer power, a lot of money to hack something that immediately after you hack, it costs zero. So, and one of the things I did, I asked the economic calculation about, let's say, now it's impossible, but let's say that in 2030 can be a small probability to hack. And in fact, it's not hacking the network, it's hacking addresses. So it's 25% of the addresses are vulnerable to a quantum attack. The other 75% are safe. So you can attack this address and I don't remember who. And the cost. Let's say the cost that you need to use to hack the addresses, let's say, is 1 billion, and the revenue you can get sorry, it's 1 trillion, and the revenue you can get is half a trillion, something like that. So it doesn't make sense. And also taking in consideration that you hack and the Bitcoin price doesn't go down. So that's the point. I think that the incentives is not good to hack the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is better to hack the HSBC and use this money to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point
No,
that I never
no
thought
financial,
of. Hack
no,
Bitcoin, that could send
no
it to
advice. No advice.
of course not. Of
It's
course, we're
just theoretically.
we're just talking shop here. But let's get back to Tesla and Elon here for a second. If Tesla were to come out today or tomorrow, let's say, and they announce they're buying Bitcoin again, do you think that would be the catalyst that could trigger the next leg up, or are we kind of past the point of letting one billionaire move the market? Because I remember back a couple years ago, Elon would tweet something that could even be perceived as pro-Bitcoin. The whole market would shoot into a frenzy. And Tesla bought Bitcoin back then. The whole market was into a frenzy. But are we past that now? Like, would it take someone like in the Mag 7 outside of Tesla buying Bitcoin to really act as that next catalyst? Because Tesla is kind of a wild card with Elon at the helm, right?
Yes, I think that if Elon does this statement, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good for the Bitcoin ecosystem because this is a company, a Mag 7 company that has a lot of cash. And I think that if Elon does this move, many other companies will do the move. Because one thing is, with all the respect that I have for Saylor, right? But one thing is Saylor trying to convince the other companies and the other governments to buy Bitcoin as a company and put on the treasury of the company. And something totally different would be if Elon says that. So I think that if Elon does that, it would be a catalyst to an amazing omega candle for Bitcoin.
Yeah, because I feel like everyone's kind of waiting for it, but nobody wants to be that first CEO that does it, and God forbid they're wrong. That guy's on the chopping block, so everyone's kind of waiting for permission for another big CEO to come out and do it, and then they're like, okay, they proved this is a sound thing, even though we already know it is, and then we'll see everybody piling in. But I think that's going to be the way it's going to play out, and it might be some time until we see that happen. But hey, until then, we're doing just fine at around 110 right now, so not too bad. All right, Fernando, we got another story we're going to talk about here, so hang 10. We'll be back in a second, because Luxembourg, the tiny European country famous for chocolate, banks, and being richer than you, has officially become the first nation in the Eurozone to invest in Bitcoin. Its sovereign wealth fund is putting 1% of its $730 million portfolio into Bitcoin ETFs. That's about $7 million, a small amount in absolute terms, but symbolically, it's huge. Finance Minister Giles Roth announced that the move, calling it a measured step toward innovation with accountability, which is politician speak for "we bought Bitcoin, but don't freak out, Christine Lagarde." The fund made the investment under a revised mandate that allows up to 15% in alternative assets, including crypto. This makes Luxembourg the first Eurozone government to officially hold Bitcoin exposure. And while 1% might be small, it sets a precedent that other European funds can safely copy-paste into their own portfolios. Analysts say this marks a turning point. Bitcoin isn't being treated as a speculative play anymore. It's being treated like a legitimate macro asset, right alongside gold, treasuries, and overpriced Picasso NFTs. Bringing Fernando back. Fernando, Luxembourg, a country the size of a decent-sized golf course, just beat every other Euro nation to owning Bitcoin. Why do you think small nations are moving faster than big ones right now in terms of Bitcoin adoption?
Well, one of the things that I want to point is that they are not buying Bitcoin; they are buying the Bitcoin ETF. Because let's put this difference to the audience. Buying Bitcoin is you buy money, you get money, and you get your keys. If you hold your keys, you are buying Bitcoin. If you are holding an ETF, it's just that you give money to a third party, and this third party buy Bitcoin, give you a certificate that they have your Bitcoin, but they custody the Bitcoin. So you are your Bitcoin, but you are not under custody. So in my maximalist point of view, is not that they have Bitcoin like El Salvador, but it's good to move towards. I always say that the ETF, the stocks of the Bitcoin Treasury Company are good things to make people have exposure to Bitcoin without controlling the keys, and then go to the rabbit hole and study Bitcoin and become get Bitcoin and control your key. That's the first point. The second point, I think that the small nations act at the same thing as the small corporations, because when you are a small nation, you have less bureaucracy, so the decisions are faster. It's the same as the company. Let's say my company, we have me and my business partner together at the same office, and we make the decision. So a decision for us takes hours. Imagine a huge corporation that has the CEO, CFO, the director of the department. A decision probably takes weeks. So that's, I think that especially with these decisions, that even though we say that, of course, Bitcoin is not anymore a risk asset, but it's still a risk asset if you compare with bonds or or other treasuries. So that's the point. And these nations that probably they don't have like a Congress or senators and all the things that they have to do, they can make the decision and say, okay, we have this money, let's allocate this and see how it goes. And they evaluate with testing. That's the thing I love to do. So as a small country, comparing with a small company, is faster to move and is faster to innovate. It's the same if we compare RoxomTV with CNN. With Roxom, you can act super fast. With CNN, you need to go to a lot of things, regulation, bureaucracy, and you cannot move to innovate. That's the thing. On the other side, if you are smaller, you can act faster and you can innovate faster. And at the end of the day, you will get the rewards faster. So that's the good point.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You're able to be a lot more nimble with a smaller, whether it's a business team as opposed to a country, and you don't have as much red tape to sort through and getting those approvals from the top down. So that makes a lot of sense. But with that being said, Europe as a whole has been pretty slow and cautious about crypto thus far. Do you think that this Luxembourg adding Bitcoin exposure to their balance books, does this kind of form some cracks in the dam for other European nations maybe to follow suit?
I don't think, because again, Luxembourg is these small countries that we know that they live. I think that all the people living there are rich. They have amazing castles, and they are backed by the finance world. It's the same when we compare, I don't know, Singapore or Hong Kong, and you cannot compare with big countries. But said that, let's say today is Luxembourg, then it can be, for example, Liechtenstein, or then it can go through a small country in Europe like Austria, Switzerland, and when one of these countries adopt, this can be the catalyst for bigger nations like France, Germany, Spain, Italy to adopt Bitcoin. I think that Luxembourg is a good move that probably will will be copied by other small nations, small states in Europe, and after that, probably the big states will adopt. Again, as we were saying before, the smaller had this advantage of moving faster. So let's see. I think that first they will go to the small nations in Europe, probably, let's say, again, Austria, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, the Baltic nations, for example, Latvia, Estonia, so that are small countries. And once they adopt, and when France see that, how come Latvia, a country of 2 million people, is doing better than us? Because they are holding Bitcoin. So, and then they want to see, okay, maybe we can try.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think this Luxembourg move is going to catch the attention of some of the bigger nations like the UK or France just yet. But it kind of reminds me, you've probably seen it before, where it's like you have like a domino rally set and each domino just gets a little bigger than the one previously, but it can get knocked down by it. So like Luxembourg's that little tiny one. And then over here we have like the United States. But, you know, as far as we know, the United States could fall the opposite direction really soon. And then we got an arms race in our hands here. So definitely a good thing moving forward. How it's going to play out, only time will tell. All right, we got one more story we're going to go over here, Fernando, and it's part of our socially awkward segment. So let's run the stinger, gang, and get on into it. All right, well, YouTube's launching a brand new initiative. It's called Second Chances because apparently the platform that banned you for misinformation now believes in redemption arcs. The program lets previously banned creators apply for reinstatement, though it's more of a parole hearing than a warm welcome. The move comes right after YouTube told the House Judiciary Committee it would reinstate creators banned over outdated COVID-19 and election integrity policies. But here's the catch. Returning creators don't get their channels, followers, or content back. It's a fresh start, which is Silicon Valley for we deleted your stuff, but hey, good luck rebuilding everything from scratch. YouTube says they'll review applications carefully, considering whether creators were particularly severe or persistent violators. That's corporate lingo for we'll decide based on how famous you are. The program won't cover everyone, but high-profile names like Dan Bongino, Sebastian Gorka, and Steve Bannon, who were all banned, could potentially reapply. So if you see them back on your next homepage next month, don't panic. It's not a glitch, it's policy. We're bringing Fernando back. Fernando, YouTube's giving banned creators second chances. Should we clap for free speech progress or laugh that Silicon Valley discovered forgiveness after banning half the internet? What do you think?
It's funny because I suffer a couple of bans in this year of YouTube just for stupid reasons. And I didn't get my channels back. I had to start. The funny thing is when I was reading, I said, okay, it's good they are recovering the channel, but they just can't recover the channel. They don't recover the content. They don't recover the audience. That at the end of the day, this is the most important. Building an audience, creating the content is the most difficult part. It takes years to build the audience. So probably these creators imagine these creators that they are famous, probably a creator with 500,000 followers, subscribers, or 100K or 1 million subscribers. They, of course, have other social media where they can say, oh, I'm back in YouTube, and it can recover fast. But imagine a small creator of 10K, 15K, that takes huge amount of work to create that. And you're not famous, you recover the channel, and then to come back is super difficult. So that's why what we need. What we need, of course, it's good for you. It's good for YouTube that say, okay, we screw up, you can get your channel back, but man, it's stupid that you need to start from scratch. When YouTube made a mistake, not you made your mistake.
Right.
It's not like, let's say, okay, we delete your channel, but because you were doing bad things, we let you get back, but you need to start from scratch. This is different. But YouTube kicked you out for nothing. So that's why we need a Nostr and decentralized social media, because as I say, Nostr, not your keys, not your audience. In Nostr, you can get kicked by a client, a relay, but you have your keys. You pick up your audience and you go to other place. So again, it's good, but it's like I don't know. It's funny. It's YouTube. It is what it is. We need YouTube, but we know that this is the rules.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. Like it sounds good on paper, but it's kind of like someone being like, "Welcome home. We sold your house." So it's not really doing a lot for the creators, but it does sound good. And we here at Roxom had that for a couple of weeks, where out of the blue, we were banned from YouTube, and they don't really give you any reason or transparency as to why, so that you can rectify things that might go against their policy. So to your point, that really opens the door for other platforms like Nostr, where freedom is still very much prioritized, and you have control over your own media. So I'm here for it. Well, Fernando, go ahead. Do you have any final thoughts today?
Yeah, the only problem is that now YouTube is a monopolic, and you don't have the same audience. For example, now I'm following Nolan's advice, and I'm start creating my account uploading my content in Rumble. But of course, the audience is not the same, and the growth pace is not the same. But sooner or later, most of the people will understand and will start moving to these alternative platforms.
Yep. I hear that, brother. Well, Fernando, our time is running short here, but I want to thank you, as always, for joining us here on the show. It's always a pleasure having you on. And we're excited to check in with you in the next couple of weeks, as you're going to be dotting around the globe. So we're super pumped for your adventures and how you're going to share them with us when we see you next time.
See you next time, and we will be talking about my adventures around the world.
Can't wait. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you very soon. And we're going to take a break here at the Blockchain Report. We'll be right back right after this quick message. Do you wish you could grab cash without selling your Bitcoin? Yeah, same. But hey, that's why Ledden exists. They're the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Over $9 billion worth issued since 2018, with a perfect record protecting client assets. Now, what makes a Ledden loan different, you ask? Well, with custody loans, your collateral stays put. They don't go degen and lend it out for yield. There are no credit checks. It funds in under 6 hours, no monthly payments, repay anytime with 0 penalties, and for transparency grown-ups actually want, proof of reserves reports every 6 months, verified by a top accounting firm. The bottom line is Ledden lets Bitcoin holders unlock liquidity without selling. You can check it out at ledden.io/RoxomTV. That's LEDN.io/RoxomTV. All right, time to wrap up today's show with a little bullish, bearish, or BS. This is the time of the show where we recap our top stories of the day and see how things are looking for Bitcoin going forward. Let's get into it. First up, Congress just introduced a bill that would permanently allow Americans to add Bitcoin to their 401ks, turning Trump's executive order into actual law. The move could open the floodgates for Bitcoin exposure across the $25 trillion U.S. retirement industry. My diagnosis, you gotta be bullish on this one, right? Institutional money loves legal clarity, and this bill gives Bitcoin a front row seat in America's biggest investment pool. Even if it passes slowly, just the idea of Bitcoin in retirement accounts makes Wall Street nervous and hodlers very rich. So Bitcoin in your 401k, it's like forced hodling for boomers. So Mima, get your orange wear ready. I'm bullish on it. Next up, after years of Doge detours, Elon's back calling Bitcoin energy money, saying you can't fake currency, or you can fake currency, but you can't fake energy. He's linking Bitcoin's proof of work to real-world value and subtly rebranding it as the honest money in an artificial intelligence economy. I'm calling bullish on this one too. I mean, when the richest man on earth reframes Bitcoin as the only real form of energy-backed money, that's not just a meme, it's a megaphone. Every time Elon opens his mouth about Bitcoin, we see a ripple effect of renewed institutional and retail curiosity. So, in short, Elon says Bitcoin's energy money, the man's tweeting bullish again. I'm here for it. I'm bullish on that one too. Get the chainsaw out of here, Elon. Last up, we got Trump blasted Time magazine for giving him a baby-sized halo on their new cover, proving once again he's more concerned with lighting than legislation. The irony? The article was actually flattering, calling his Middle East deal-making a triumph. Ooh, I'm calling BS on this one. I mean, this has really nothing to do with Bitcoin unless Trump's hairline becomes an oracle for price action. But given his administration's new pro-Bitcoin policies, it's just more noise around the man shaping real market news elsewhere. So Trump's mad at Time magazine, not bearish, it's just very much on brand. So today's final score, 2 bullish, 0 bearish, 1 BS, which means overall today's stories paint a clear picture. Bitcoin's marching deeper into the mainstream, whether the legacy system likes it or not. And between the 401k bill bringing Bitcoin to retirement portfolios and Elon Musk rebranding it as energy money, momentum is squarely on the side of adoption. Sure, Trump's magazine drama is pure BS, but when the world's richest man and the US government are both moving the narrative forward, it's hard not to call today bullish. So I'm calling bullish on the day. And as always, gang, I want to give you a big thanks for tuning in to another episode here at the Blockchain Report. And if you haven't already, pretty please do me a little favor and make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to RoxomTV, Hank at RoxomTV on the Blockchain Report, which you can find on all of your favorite platforms out there. So until next time, as always, I want you to stay safe, stay informed, and always make sure to hodl on. I'll see you guys tomorrow.